Hello. Hi, everybody. It's Melanie here with Stamp with Melanie. We'll get going in just a second here. I just want to make sure. Looks like we are live. All right. So, thanks so much for joining on this Friday evening. If you don't know me, my name is Melanie. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator for 13 years, and I live in southwestern Pennsylvania. However, I am online and I can help you with any of your stamping needs. So if you have any questions or anything like that, please reach out to me and I'll be happy to help you to the best of my ability. All right, all week long I've been featuring products using the Sunrise Sailing Bundle. This bundle is a photopolymer stamp set, coordinating dies, and then one of those hybrid embossing folders. And if you're not sure how those work, even though I'm not demonstrating that technique tonight, I can show you that what you would do is your embossing folder works with your die. So what you would do is grab the die of the sailboat, okay, and then you would fit it around the die, or fit it around the image in the embossing folder, like I've shown here. Let's get a piece of paper under here so you can see it really well. Okay, and then when you put your piece of paper on top and carefully close it, then when you die cut, or when you run this through your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, it will cut out this image for you. It will cut out the sailboat. So that's how a hybrid embossing folder works. I have two projects for you today. They're both super cute. And they are both a case of the projects that Stampin' Up! Shows online with this bundle. Now, you know this Sunrise Sailing Bundle is an online exclusive, meaning that it doesn't appear in any catalog at all. So you don't see any pictures of projects made with this bundle in a catalog, but they are online. And then in this case, they were so cool, I decided that I was going to make them and share them with you. One of them uses an oldie but goodie technique that will be new to some of you. And the other is going to be a little bag we're going to make. So we are going to get started. I only have one more thing I wanted to share with you before we start on our projects. And this is the last day for the two-tone cardstock sale. Now this is a piece of Pool Party. And you can see one side is this color and the other side is this color. So the color variation is very slight, but it is like it's a shade lighter or a shade darker. And one of the really cool things that you can do with this kind of paper, because it has a white core, is if you have an embossed image, you grab a sanding block. This one I've had for a long time, since because this is kind of a technique that goes in and out of popularity, and you just lightly rub over the paper, and you kind of get a distressed look. It will gently rub off the top layer of the paper, and you get a distressed look to your paper. Now, this is something that doesn't work with regular cardstock, because our regular cardstock has a solid core and not a white core. But this two-toned cardstock does have the white core, so this is a great distressing technique that you can try with that to give a little more dimension to your projects. All right, enough of that. Just keep in mind, today is the last day for that sale. Okay. All right, here's the first project that we are going to make. We're going to make this card that, like I said, is part of the what's shown in the catalog. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to emboss this piece of cardstock. I'm going to use this piece of white This is Willow White in this case. I'm going to use that as a framing piece, and then that'll be my card. I'll use another cloud cover card base on top of that. And I'm going to show you how to color that boat, the sailboat and the clouds. This is also an older technique, but it's used very infrequently, but it's really cool, a really cool look. So I wanted to share it with you. Let me go ahead and get started by embossing this piece of paper, and then I will be right back. Grab the embossing folder here. I just want to show you how I'm going to set it up in here. I'm going to have my boat to the left. The sailboat's going to go to the left side of the page. And I'm going to grab as much of the clouds as I can. So I'm going to put my cardstock panel towards the top. Let's go just a little bit more. All right, I think that's going to look good. All right, so you can see what we're going to have after I emboss this. Oh, wait. Have to take off all the plates, not just part of the plates. Okay. All right. So here we have our sailboat, and of course I did exactly the opposite of what I said I wanted to do because I have my sailboat over too far to the right. I'm going to cut another piece of cardstock, and I'm going to just repeat that. And this time I'm going to check my indents to make sure I'm going the right direction. Let's see. All right, this piece of cardstock is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. So we'll go 5 1/8. 3 7/8. And I'll try this again. All right, so this time, okay, there's my indents. And I want my boat to be to the left. And grab the clouds. All right, I think we got it this time. Okay. Oh, that's so much better. There we go. All right, I'll just set that one over there. And the very first thing I'm going to do before I do anything else is I'm going to stamp my sentiment. You're destined for great things. And I'm going to stamp that right on the right-hand side of my panel, and it's going to be really close to the sailboat. And this is going to be stamped in Secret Sea. Awesome. Okay. All right, let me set that aside for just a second. Now I'm going to grab my Craft White ink pad. Now this, Stampin' Up! Sells these ink pads blank. They're empty. There's nothing in them. But when you order one, you also get a bottle of Whisper White Craft ink refill. So what I do, especially for something like this, is I just take my pad, shake up my refill, and I just put ink in a part of the pad. The reason why is I don't use it very often, and no sense in all that ink drying up and going to waste. So I'm just going to ink up one part of the ink pad. And then I'm just going to use the tip of the applicator to push it down in there. And this is going to be plenty. And like I said, this is an old technique that I haven't seen used much lately, but it's great for this card. Okay. Now I'm going to take a dauber. For those of you that are kind of new to stamping, a dauber is a little plastic fingertip with a sponge on the end. So I'm just going to dab my dauber in the ink. I'll grab a piece of scrap paper. And I'm just going to very, very gently apply the ink to the sailboat. Now, you're not going to be very precise. You will go a little bit out of the lines. That's why we use a light touch. Also, it's not a dramatic color difference. It's more like a shaded difference. And it really doesn't truly show when you go a little bit past. I tend to hold my dauber to the side so that I'm not getting as much ink at any one time. The thing with the craft ink is it's a thicker ink, and it does take a little bit to dry. So we're going to try not to handle our card too much after this. Okay, you can see how the white is changing the color now of the cardstock. Get that center masked. I'm just picking up a little bit of ink at a time. I don't want to go crazy and then have to start over because it blobbed or something. That's a technical term. All right. Okay, I think the sails look pretty good. So now I'm just going to come down and do the boat itself. Again, using a light touch. You don't want to go crazy. Okay, and now I'm going to also add white to a couple of the clouds. And here, I'm using a little bit of a heavier hand. You can see the white is brighter. And I'm not just coloring the embossed part, I'm coloring the whole cloud. Then I'm going to do one on the other side. When I first started stamping, I loved daubers. Okay, I think that's good for the white. So I'm going to set that aside and close up this craft pad. Of course, I had to stick my fingers in it first, because we can't just close anything. And looks like no paper towels. That's all right. All right, now I'm going to grab my Secret C, and I have another dauber. Aha. Okay. I just didn't want to get this white ink all over everything because it, oh geez. Now I stick my finger in the Secret C. Okay. We're under control. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pick up some ink with my dauber. And now this time I'm going to lightly apply it to the bottom of the ocean. And it's because I'm using a light touch, it's mainly going to pick up the raised edges only. And then I'm not going to re-ink. And it's going to get lighter as it goes higher. Okay, just a little color to the water. Okay, so that, we're going to leave this sit for a minute. And I'm going to take my my piece of Willow White cardstock. I just had it. Where did I put that? Oh, here it is. Okay, my piece of Willow White cardstock, and then I'm going to take my dies, and I'm going to cut out my two clouds from the middle of this piece. Why am I doing that? Because when I put this panel on top, nobody will ever know that I did that. So here's my two little clouds. We're just going to stick those right smack in the middle of that piece, and nobody will know. And then I have a little piece of Secret C where I added some of that two-sided tape. And I'm going to, oh, here it is. See here? And I'm going to use that to cut out the little seagulls and make them into stickers. So let me run these through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and then I'll be right back with you. Okay. So here are our clouds. And then here are the seagulls. Okay. Oh, come on. Oh, this one came, okay. This one, I'm like, why is this one sticking to me? Because it left the sticky paper on the mat. So we'll just stick this one right down here now. Oh, come on. There. Okay. And then what it looked to me when I was looking at the sample looked like to me like Stampin' Up! Embossed these clouds. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to set them in the embossing folder. They don't line up exactly, and that's okay. Let's do this one. All right, I need to do them on this side. And then we'll do this one. And then you can see we'll have a little dimension added to our clouds. All right, there's one, and we're going to put that one right there. And then here's the other one, and we're going to put it right here. Okay, so I'm going to add a little Stampin' Seal to the backs of the clouds, and since they're not going to, they're going to hang over the edge, and I'm going to cut them off. So I'm not going to put Stampin' Seal on the whole thing, just on part of it. Just along the edges of the one side. Okay, and then, let's see. Okay, this is dry now, so we can handle it. And now I'll grab my Stampin' Seal and add this panel on my Willow White. Okay, and then we can put this on our card base. We'll add that right like that. Again, our holes for our clouds are nicely covered. Nobody will know but us. And if I didn't lose the little birds, we'll add those now. Oh, good. Look here. They're both right here. Okay, peel the backing off of this one. And what I did was, there's little embossed birds here. I kind of just put these right over them. It's not a perfect match, but it's pretty close. All right, so here's our first card. And when you make this, you can say that you copied the Stampin' Up! Concept Artist. Pretty cool. Okay, well, let's move on and do our second project. And our second project is also from the listing in the online exclusives. And this one is a little bag with a tag on it. Now, I didn't make the bag earlier because it uses some foils, and I don't like to mess with those. But I did make the tag, and let me show you how cute it is. Okay. Here's the little tag, and then we're going to make a bag for it to go on. And I just think this is as cute as can be. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing is our bag. And, excuse me, I have notes with my scoring and everything on this. So this is a piece of, let's see, let me get the name of this stuff. It is the Flower Garden foils. And when I looked online to see what the names of them are, the foils, it's soft pink, muted red, and sage green. We're going to use one of each. I guess this is the sage green. And we're going to use a piece that's 8.5 inches by 9 inches. On the 9-inch side, we score at 1.5, 4.5, 6, and 9 inches. On the 8-inch side, we score at 1.5 and 6 inch, or 1.5 is on this side, and 6 inches. And that's going to create a flap at the top that's going to be 2 inches, and a bottom that's going to be 1.5 inches. Now, if you can see my shaded marks, they're not very dark. It's where I'm going to cut some away. And I'm going to do that right now. Here's I did make a template. Even though I didn't make the box earlier, I did make a template. These are some bad score marks when I was trying to figure out where all of this went. So this is what when we get it together, it's going to look like this, and then we're going to push our edges together and put this flap down. We'll attach our tag on here, and it will be as cute as can be. You with me? All right. And you've got your measurements on this. I can post this little template online as well. And I'm going to start. I'm going to refer to this so I don't mess it up. All right, we're going to do the 1.5 inch side first. We start off by cutting away this small 1/2 inch tab at the bottom. Also, when I cut along my score lines for a folded box, I like to cut them on a slight angle rather than straight up and down so that my corners lie more neatly. And it's not like a dramatic slant, it's just a tiny one. But this is where I'm creating the flaps and tabs for the bottom of this box bag. Okay, get these out of here. Now for the top, we're going to cut away this tab again on the 1/2 inch side. This time for the top, I am not cutting on an angle. I'm going to cut it straight up and down. And if you're worried about cutting in a straight line, you can always cut this out with your paper trimmer. And now I'm going to cut the whole rest of this away, just leaving this flap here. Yep. So what I'm just doing is cutting along the score line. And then cut down from the top. Okay, there we go. All right, now I'm going to grab my bone folder and burnish all those score lines. And then we'll assemble. Going to make a pretty nice size little bag too. Okay, so we'll leave that like that, and then we'll fold this over. I'm going to use a little Tombow right along here. You can use Terran tape. Also, I would recommend that you use one of the stronger adhesives. I've been gluing all day. There might not. Oh yeah, we're good. Okay. This paper has 2 patterns in each color. Whoops. Hold on. Get back here. These foils slide a little bit. So we're not going to mess. We're going to let that set up for a minute. There's 2 patterns in each color. There's a this pattern, and then there's a floral pattern for each one of them. While this is setting, okay, that's good. Let's just let that set for a minute. While that's setting, we will start to work on our tag. And for our tag, we're going to use a piece of basic white cardstock, and the size on that's going to be, I think it's 2.5 by 4. Let me see. I cut one out and then I didn't like it, so I cut another one and made it bigger, and now I can't even find the first one I did. Darn it. Hold on. Just cut another one, but let's see. This is 2.5. Yeah, I made it 2.5 by 4. Okay. Let me grab a piece of Willow White. And 2.5 by 4. Okay, well, first thing I did was just snip off the sides. Just on the top part. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you're not comfortable with doing that, maybe have an old punch like this one that will cut that corner for you. But if not, you can just eyeball it. Or you can even take your first one that you cut, hold it in place, and then cut your second one. That's a good thing I did, because otherwise I'd have been way off here. All right, there. How's that? Looks pretty good, right? Okay, so then I'm going to grab my dies, and I'm going to grab, I'm going to cut 3 clouds, 2 of the small and 1 of the larger, out of cloud cover. I'm going to cut the sailboats, the little sailboats, out of Secret Sea. And then I'm going to cut the 2 sets of sails, the smaller and the slightly bigger. Out of these foils. So that's all that I'm going to be die cutting. So let me do that. And then I'll be right back. Oh, the other thing, on my sample tag that I made, I embossed the white tag, and I embossed it with the Soft Waves 3D embossing folder. And then I stamped over it. I mean, I like the embossed look. I don't think the stamped part is going to be necessary, so I'm not going to add that back on again. So let me take care of all of that. And in the meantime, tell me how the weather is where you are. Tell me where you're watching from, and is it hot? Is it miserable? Or are you having beautiful weather? As you can guess, it's hot and miserable here. All right, my little boats. And my clouds. All right, let's give her a rip. Okay, let's see what we ended up with on this cut. We have one set of sails, two sets of sails, it's a little cloud. We need another one of those. There's the big cloud. And then here's our little boats. All right. Let me cut one more small cloud. Now we'll be done with that. When Stampin' Up! Makes the samples that they show with the product, they provide a list. Demonstrators can get access to a list of the materials that were used for it, but they don't include the measurements. So that's why I said I made my tag, and then I didn't like the size of it, and so I'm changing it for this project. It's because I didn't know what size they used, but it's pretty close. This will be good though. Okay. Here's our embossed tag. One more thing to die cut in a minute. Otherwise, we are assembling. All right. So there's our tag. Here's one cloud. There's another cloud and another cloud. These clouds are going to layer on top of each other, kind of like that. We're going to put together our sailboats. And I thought this was really clever how they designed these. So you have your little boats. Stand up straight. There we go. And then when you adhere your sails, you adhere them right to the piece of sail that comes with it. So that's nice. You're not trying to glue just to a small mast. You have a whole sail to adhere to. It makes it a lot easier, I think. So that's how these will end up looking. So now what I did that I thought was the easiest way to do these was I just added some Tombow right to the little die cut boat, and don't need a lot. I mean, that's pretty slick. I love clever ideas. All right. So those will go on like that. Let's get these clouds added on. Again, I'm only going to add stamp and seal on one part of the cloud. Because the other part will be off the paper. This time I'm not trimming them. I'm going to leave them be. Okay, and I'm going to add my sailboats with some dimensionals. I'm going to use the small ones. Put that one right there. And then I'm going to put this one just below it. Look at that mini dimensional fits right on there perfectly. Doesn't even show. Okay. All right, we're going to add this one down here. Oh, that looks good. Okay, now we're going to add, we're going to stamp Ahoy. And I guess I put that away. And I'm going to stamp it in Strawberry Slush. On the piece of White Willow. Okay, I'm going to die cut this. Okay. Let's see, where did I put those dies? Okay, where are they? Oh, here they are. Oh my goodness. I'm using the Stylish Shapes dies, and I'm going to use this larger one. The small one is just a tiny bit small. It cuts off the tail on the Y, and I really don't want that. I want it to show. So I'm going to die cut this. And then I'm going to trim it down because I don't want that whole giant sized die cut on there. You see how I did on this one? I trimmed it down. So, grab my little okay, we'll add that to our tag. Right like that. I'm just going to add it with Stampin' Seal. Although technically you really could use dimensionals to pop that up. I'm going to use the little hole punch. It's a 1/8 inch hole punch that's from the hole punch assortment. There are 3 different ones that you get in this. Unfortunately, it's been out of stock more than it's been in stock. It's currently out of stock again, but this is a great little punch set. So when you see it come back in, put it on your wish list. Okay, then I'm going to grab a piece of this Essentials Pack Baker's Twine. This is probably the basic gray. It's a pretty close match. Feed that through. Tie a bow. Okay, now let's go back to our bag. All right, there's our tag. Isn't that just as cute as can be? I really like that. All right, let's go back to our bag now. And for the rest of the way, instead of using the glue, I'm going to use Tear and Tape. Just because I don't want us to have to wait on the glue setting up. Okay, we're good. So I can fold in the bottoms. And then fold down one flap. Let's see, I like my back to be on the inside and my front to cover everything so that my front presents a nice unified look. There's no seams or anything like that you can see. So I'm just going to add some Tear and Tape right there. And a little bit that'll catch onto the flaps. Okay, and okay. Take off my little covers. And then I'm going to put my bottom flap down. Stick my bone folder down there, make sure everything's together. Okay, looks good. I'm going to gently pinch my sides in, fold the top down. Okay, now what I like to do on these is, you know, they make Velcro for paper crafters. I want to get this as flat as possible so we don't have any kinks in our foil. There we go. There, that looks pretty good. Now you could round these edges if you want, but I think that looks really good like that. Besides, we're going to put our tag right on top of it. So I'm going to grab one of my little thin Velcros for paper crafters. These teeny tiny little guys. And this is like my favorite thing on the planet. Okay, stick that right there. Fold this down. Kind of squish it to make sure it sticks. There we go. We're in business. And then I'm just going to put a piece of tear and tape across the back of my tag and attach that. In fact, I think I'll put 2. Now you could fill these there. I just think that is so stinking cute. All right, now you could fill these with whatever you want, but sticking with our nautical sailboat theme, I thought it would be very appropriate to fill it with some saltwater taffy. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I'll have this all ready to give to a friend. Close my box back up. All set. So we have the cute little bag and box and our adorable card. Both of these are the concept artist projects that go along with this bundle from the online exclusives. I liked them both, so I decided that I was going to case them. I will post all this information to YouTube, and then I will add the link back to Facebook so that you can pick it up and watch it again if you'd like to, or get any of the measurements or whatever you need. So thanks so much for watching. Have a great weekend, and I hope that you think this is a terrific bundle. Sunrise Sailing is the name, and that you add it to your cart if you don't already have it, because it's really a good one. All right, thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. Bye now.